which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I'd like to announce that in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. Is there any public comment from the board?
Oh, sure. I'll have one. Just in the nature of sort of what got me involved in town government, and then something we've been talking about for a while is underfunded or understaffed, or both, I guess, are connected, public safety, both the fire and the police department. And there was an accident I was close to this weekend, and I was there on foot, like first responder, I guess. And when the first officer showed up, she was coming straight from another accident, and the other officer, being only two, was at the other accident and then had to come to this one because there was arrest associated with it, or at least they took him into custody. And so it was just one of those moments where you saw the vulnerability of two patrol officers and how little that is when there's just two simple incidents that occur at the same time in town. So being there and watching it unfold and then having it be something I've sort of thought about for over a year and a half now, I just wanted to say that I hope we continue to really talk about that topic and not let it just go on the back burner. Okay, thanks.
Was it Saturday or Sunday?
It was Saturday at around 6:15 p.m.
Thanks.
Is there any public comment from the public?
Hello again, Aisling Gaughan, 73 Lancaster Avenue, and I am here to follow up about whether you found the weather vane for this building.
Certainly I didn't.
Question? Pardon me?
Certainly I haven't.
So
I've got a big barn, but I don't have that.
yeah, so I have some images of this lovely thing. It was a gilded feather and undoubtedly was on this building since it was here, built in 1810. That's about as good an image as I can get. So my thought was that this could be a insurance claim since it's been lost, because to find an antique weather vane, a gilded feather like that, will be surprisingly expensive, and then to put it back on top of the building as where it should be will all cost money. And I think that it's a legitimate insurance claim since it came off at some point, no one knows quite when, and it's disappeared. And it really needs to go back on top of the building. Or, you know, obviously that one can't since no one knows where it is, but something, an antique weather vane to replace it. So that's my comment for this evening. I hope that that can go forward because it is really one of the two most important buildings in the historic town centre of Lunenburg. Thank you.
Is there any follow-up we can provide? Because this topic has been around for not quite a year now. It shows up on Facebook, and it's obviously a missing artifact. And then some people say it went to the fire department, and maybe it went to the DPW. And is there any way to actually follow up on a missing item and
last week
and not just let it linger as a question?
Last week was the first I heard of it, but I'm not on Facebook.
It's been around for a while.
But not in government that I know of.
Sure, maybe that was.
Right. What needs to be done for
Could you
get a microphone?
Step to the microphone, please?
Sorry. What would be the process for that action to move forward? Does there need to be a letter or?
To look into the whereabouts with town officials. The
Right.
last known location was that it was in this basement.
In the basement. Yeah, I spoke to Kathy Herrick and she remembered it being there some time ago. I mean, it seems to have disappeared in the last few years because it was certainly here when the building was built, painted in 2008. It was on the top of the building because that's when that photograph was taken. So Anyway, I'm going to watch carefully to see to see what's happening here, because it would be very good. I think before we forget about it, it would be very good to move on it, and perhaps the Historic Commissioner could be of I'm sure the Historic Commissioner and the Historic Society would be very happy to be of help with this, because that they have images and they would know where to go to find a replacement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment from the public? Okay. Well, first appointment is an update from Council on Aging. And who am I going to turn that over to?
Before I get to that, I was just watching this afternoon your last meeting, and you ended by a comment on something that Deb and I would like to volunteer for, and that's the 2028 Tricentennial Committee. I was on the last, and only 4 of us are left in the last committee, unfortunately, and I'll tell you, you need years in advance to plan for this thing. Deb and Kathy Como and I set the parade up last time. You have to apply to get the Shriners to march 3 to 4 years in advance. They're so booked in order to do that. So it wouldn't be too early to get to thinking about it. I will be around. Old teachers never die. They just lose their class. We both watched the meeting of June 12th, where at length you discussed committees and that committees needed to be presented to the public so that they understand what the committees do, what their membership is, what their missions are, and so they have a better understanding of each of the committees. And so that's the tact I would like to take first to address that meeting in particular. I believe you talked about it again in another meeting subsequently, about especially when people need to renew their membership to the committees and how that goes about. So first, the Council on Aging's mission is to advocate for the improved quality for all seniors through supporting services, programs, and education. That's from the charter, and that's pretty brief, doesn't say much. So we meet at the Eagle House on Memorial Drive on the second Tuesday of every month, unless the schools are called off that day for snow days, in which it's the third Tuesday. We don't meet in July, so we have 11 meetings a year. They take place at 9:30 in the morning. We have 11 members, other than the Cultural Council. I think that's the largest committee in town. I am the chairperson. I'm Pete Lincoln from Hemlock Drive. Jack Dwyer is our vice chairman. Betty DiGiacomo, Sarah Grant, Brian Gennard, Deb Lincoln, Kevin McNally, Cheryl Moisen, Diane Nowd, Jane Rabbit, and Judy Tarbell are our other members. And they have been so for the last 4 years. We do have a vacancy. One of the men decided not to reapply. So as of July 1st, we have a vacancy. And I'll talk about the vacancy fills in a sec. Our agenda is prepared by Sue Doherty, who is our director. She sends it to me about a week ahead of time by an email, and I add or subtract anything from it. So we agree on an agenda. Then hard copies are mailed out to each of our members 3 or 4 days in advance, so they get a chance to read the agenda and the minutes from the meeting before. I know you've talked a lot about the difficulty of taking minutes, because some committees have to do that with people who aren't trained to do it, or don't want to do it, or just doing volunteer. We are fortunate that our administrative assistant could publish her minutes. They're absolutely magnificent. I don't know if any of you have read them, but they're several paragraphs long in great detail, so that anyone who has not attended a meeting or would just like from the public to find out what's going on could do so. Some of the people out there in our audience don't know that I taught senior English for 38 years. At the end of the last session, I went through her 11 sets of minutes. There was not a single grammatical or spelling mistake in it. She got an A+. And some of you have had me in English class know I don't give those out easily, although Katie, I believe you got an A.
Maybe.
I think you did. So the minutes are done very, very well, but I understand the plight of some committees that don't have an employee that's done that. That's difficult. All our meetings begin on time, and we do follow Robert's rules to the T. So there's never been any problem with that. We don't have complicated motions to have to deal with like you might on the town meetings, but we do follow that so everyone's able to see that there is a procedure. Now, the three things that you seem to isolate when you were talking about what the committees all needed to do. One, communication with the public, so the public has transparency, knows what's going on in each of these committees. We have a senior newsletter every month that goes out. I think all the councils on aging share this service, so that there's a daily diary of what goes on every single day throughout the year. Those are available at the Eagle House, at the library, at the post office, various places around town. You can pick them up and see what goes on. Every single issue of the Lunenburg Ledger has a half a page telling some of the activities that you can go to. We have a Facebook page, and photographs of activities. The bingo winners are always published there, and any of the activities, so they can see firsthand what's going on. There are several PAC programs that have been filmed there, especially things like the Boston Post cane ceremony or the volunteers demonstration, and it's on the PAC scroll as well. I have a suggestion in talking about publicizing these meetings, the committees. Bob, you remember back in the heyday of the town reports that Mary Padula put out that were collector's items, were filled with photographs of each of the committees. Nice, professional, taken full-size photographs of everyone, and I kept it on my coffee table for the year. Anytime I wanted to know who to contact, and put a face with a name. Picture's worth 1,000 names, and so that by doing that, I think that would be really helpful to people to find out who exactly is on all these committees and being able to be familiar with their looks. I know there was a time when we went through a difficult time with the town reports where they were very, very small and sketchy, but I see now that they're much fuller and copies are placed around. This last issue, though, had two photographs, one of two police cars and a montage of Monty Tech. That was it. So that would not be difficult to do. And my son Danny and I would volunteer to take some of these pictures if you'd like. I think that would be very helpful to publicize who's on these committees. Second thing was recruitment of people on the committees. The talent bank has been around a while. It isn't very helpful to the Council on Aging. The young Turks come to town and they want to be involved in more of the action committees, the school committee, the planning committees. But someone who comes into town, he's 35 and raring to go, he doesn't want to talk about bingo and mahjong. And so we have to do all of our recruitment by word of mouth, which we've been able to do well. We've had a complete 11-member attendance for filled for about several years now. And that seems to work much better. When I knew there was going to be a vacancy, I came up to the town and looked at the talent bank. There were 4 applications there. None, of course, were interested in this. But that word of mouth has worked well. And we try to find someone who has got the time, for one thing, because we meet in the morning. We do have 2 or 3 working members that are able to get the time off, but that's somewhat of a difficulty. We only have 4 members, over 70 on our committee, too. This is not, in the past, some of these Council on Aging committees were filled with very elderly people who were not able to take many, many years on this. We do. As I said, we have excellent attendance. And the reappointment procedure has been a difficulty for us for a while. When you first requested, it hasn't been that long, maybe 10 years now, you requested that we appear on TV to be interviewed for a position. We had a recruit that I thought was going to be excellent. She said to me, "I'm not going on TV. I am not going to submit myself to being on television." So I called Tom Alonso and spoke to him for an hour, and he was adamant that that had to happen, but he allowed me at least to come with her and hold her hand while she was interviewed. And the other time, some of you know Gordon Eads, the sports writer, was married and had moved to town, and his wife was not familiar with Lunenburg, so I asked her if she'd like to join the Council on Aging. And she said sure, and came up and was interviewed and asked questions that she had no idea how to answer. She was embarrassed by them because she was a new recruit. She wasn't familiar with the laws dealing with us. And so it can be intimidating and difficult for people to appear cold here on TV. Not everyone is a ham actor, and so that's something you might consider. Even if it's a re-up, it can be somewhat difficult to do that. As far as the writing up notices on things that you've done or information that you would like to pass on, that's one thing. We did that this year. I didn't get the impression that they were very well read and looked over. Some of our suggestions just came back as, yeah, we've done that. It's a lot of work, I was involved with evaluating teachers over the years, and a principal that had to evaluate 50 people over a couple months found that a pretty daunting job to try to do and do it well. So you might consider how you handle that so it's the easiest for you, and still you fill out the process as best you could. The third one was the issue of the liaison. I'm very glad to say that Mr. Toll has been a terrific liaison for the Council on Aging this past year. We value his presence. I think he gets a lot out of what we do and understands what we do. And he especially has been helpful in discussing things that the seniors don't know much about, like the capital plan. We wanted to get the senior center painted for years, didn't exactly know how to go about it directly. He explained that. When the charter revisions were coming up for possible voting, none of us understood that. He went through them point by point, got input from us, explained exactly what they all meant, and it was very, very helpful. So I think the liaison for us has been great. I approve of it. We also have Jack Dwyer, who's a functioning nurse right now, is our liaison for the Montechusett Home Care Board of Directors, which is great to have that kind of input coming directly back to us. So that sort of liaison is helpful too. And we have a good relationship with PAC, with the fire department, and with the police department for the issues that we have involving seniors. That's been very helpful. So in that aspect, liaisons have been great. Just in closing, Deb and I spoke to Senator Tram at the band concert last night. Part of his program is aimed at seniors. He's very, very concerned about senior welfare, and he's promoting bills for things such as what they call the formula grant, which is monies that is given to the state depending on the number of seniors that you have. In fact, Charlie Baker in his address mentioned Council on Aging this past year. First time we've ever heard that in all the governor's addresses. So we feel that we have political clout that we didn't used to have, and the support of your board. Any questions, anybody? I'm glad to. Anything?
Great format, very informative. You've set the bar for the rest of the committees.
Thank you. So I'd like to introduce Sue Doherty. I have worked for all three of our only three directors, and let me tell you, she is a treasure. What she's been able to do over there for new programming and making the place a welcoming, comfortable place, working so well as a place for something like the car show or the art show or the memorial services, a place to come in for other groups to use and visit, is really welcoming. I can't applaud her enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sue Doherty, the director at the Lunenburg Council on Aging, and thank you, Pete. He did a great job explaining everything that we do. We just wanted to do a little slideshow for you, like a kind of a end-of-year report. When I became the director 3 years ago, and I did a report, and we were kind of status quo in our statistics and stuff, with people coming up to the senior center and utilizing the programs, and I predicted that I'm pretty sure we were going to increase by a lot over the next year, and then we'd probably level out a little bit more once we got everything settled and programs in place, and that's exactly what has happened. So anyways, without further ado, what have we done in FY18? You're not even going to be able to read it all, because it's not even all on there. There's like 72 items, and there's just so much we do. We don't just do bingo, and we don't just do cards and pancake breakfast and things like that. We have a new outreach coordinator, Pauline Roy, and she goes out to the homes and she tells people exactly what's going on there. If people need information and referral services, she's there for that. We do SNAP applications. We help people with food stamps. We refer people to the community food bank when they need it. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there that I can't even begin to tell you, because it just pops up again later on. So just kind of like a little what we did last year. We were invited to go to the Stillman Fair. So we set up a booth there, and we gave out information and newsletters and little giveaways of different things, and just to inform people of what goes on up there and, try and recruit some more members. Myself, Amanda Keck, my administrative assistant, and Betty DiGiacomo, one of our board members, came up, and we sat there all day and did that. And it was a great time, and we were invited back again this year, and we look forward to going to it again. Okay, where are we now? Tea party time. This is one of our fun things. One of our board members, we have a pretty active board. They get involved in things. And Sarah Grant, she's done a wonderful, wonderful job. She does arts and crafts up there. She does this tea party that is, we sell out immediately. And people from the Fitchburg Art Museum come and help her out. And everybody decorates the round table. They all do a great job. It's just one of those things that it's unbelievable. They do their bake sale. Everything is homemade by Sarah. Everything on the tables is homemade by Sarah. And it's just a really good event. It's really pretty classy for us. We have a lot of help from outside agencies, and Highlands over in Fitchburg is one of the biggest ones. They sponsor a veterans breakfast for us once a month, and Marianne Melanson, I believe she's the head of the activities director over there, she comes in and she cooks breakfast for anywhere between 15 to 30 people, depending on who shows up that day. It's all free. They sponsor the whole thing. They came in, they sponsored a sock hop, and these are the pictures from the sock hop, and it was just, she brought in all these props. They paid for a DJ who used to be the former drummer for Boston to come in. I mean, I don't know if everybody remembers Boston, but it was really a good time. And we didn't have a lot of people attend, but if they do it again, we will definitely have more because they loved it so much. Every year we have an annual St. Patrick's Day dinner luncheon, and we have a 501c3 fundraising group, the Eagle House Supporters, and they offset some of the ticket prices. So we have a catered meal of corned beef and cabbage and Irish music, and it usually costs the patron $10, and the supporters pick up the rest of it. So they're a great group to have. We depend on them a lot. They pay for a lot of our programs. So once again, there's some pictures. Everybody had a great time. You could tell people were dressed up in all these festive costumes and everything. And another one that we don't do too often, but it comes around every so often, it's the Boston Post cane presentation. And the Boston Post cane was started by the defunct newspaper, the Boston Post, and it was given to the eldest male in a city or town. What was that, Pete? 19 what? Yeah, till 1930. Then they did eldest citizen. So right now, the Boston Post cane holder is Clarence Gogan, who's a little over 100 years old, and he received the cane in March in 2018. And we had a nice reception for him. His family was there. Senator Tran's office was there to give him a citation. And when this stuff comes up, when we do a Boston Post cane presentation, we open it up to the public because it's a milestone for somebody, and it's a great event to come to. So hopefully it doesn't happen again too soon, but when it does. We have intergenerational programs. We had 3 of them. That was one of our goals this year for the Council on Aging. We did an 8th grade pen pal class. We did a Girl Scout dance party. And the biggest one was the Bridges Together program. And that's a nationwide program. And the Bridges Together approached me because the middle school wanted to do it. And I'm going to introduce you to our new outreach coordinator, Pauline Roy. And Pauline was in charge of this, and she can explain more about the program to you. Pauline?
So yeah, I'm Pauline Roy. I'm the outreach coordinator at the COA. So one of the jobs I got this year was starting up this Bridges Together program. It had never been done in Lunenburg. And the whole goal of the program is basically just to bring together elementary age students as well as older adults in the community, with the goal that by bringing them together, we can hopefully foster respect and understanding and maybe even friendships. So we got to do this. We got 16 volunteers together. They ranged in age from 60 to 94. Mr. Toll was one of our wonderful volunteers. It was an hour commitment, and it ran for 6 weeks. So we went into 2 fifth grade classrooms. The seniors were paired up in groups of 2, and they each worked with a small group. They had like 6 to 8 students, depending on the classroom. And they stayed with the same students through the whole time. So that was one of the wonderful things, is they actually got to know each other through the process and, build more of a relationship. There was a curriculum that they followed. It had a lot of different topics, things like getting to know each other, talking about how education's different from then to now, ethnicities, traditions. There was a learning one where they each had to prepare a small talk and teach about something that they're passionate about. And then at the end, we had a pizza party at the senior center, and all the students actually walked over. And then they got to have a tour of the senior center, our space, and then we had a big pizza party. It was loud and crazy and a lot of fun. It was really neat to see how at the end the kids were running up to their volunteers and just giving them hugs, and there was like genuine sadness that this was over, that they were going to miss each other. So yeah, I would say that this totally exceeded our expectations. It was better than we thought it was going to be. I think the kids were surprised. Talking to the teachers, they loved it. They actually want to move it and do it with all 5 classes, so the entire 5th grade next year. So we're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. She did a great job, by the way. She's a huge asset to our office. She does a great job. The next thing is volunteers. And I'm going to bring Deb Lincoln up here. She's one of our Council on Aging members, because this is near and dear to her heart. And she's going to talk to you about all of our volunteers at the Senior Center. Deb?
So the slide that you're looking at is once a year we honor our volunteers with an appreciation cookout, and we're lucky that we have the fire and police people to help us out with the cookout. And this year we had 45 people that volunteered. They gave us over 2,500 hours, which is pretty amazing. And at $11 an hour, they are giving us over $27,000. But 2,500 hours is more than just a number. It represents so many talented, generous, inspirational people from the community who volunteer their time and their artistry to enrich the lives of our seniors. Almost always, when you see a cost attached to a program, it's for the materials, not the instructor. These volunteers lead us into a wide variety of areas, including cooking, crafts, bingo, poetry, and physical fitness, just to name a few. Earlier, you saw a slide of Sarah Grant's Tea Party, which is a major fundraiser for the Eagle House, and it takes months of planning and preparation, and it's done purely by volunteers. Around the Eagle House itself, volunteers help in the kitchen, in the office, in the library, and perform handyman and gardening chores. Out in the community, volunteers drive Meals on Wheels and are friendly visitors. We would like to encourage everyone over 50 to get involved. Come see a movie. Come play cribbage. Come play bocce. Sample some of our many programs that we offer. Lend your talents by offering to lead an event. We love and appreciate our volunteers and could not exist without them.
Thank you, Deb. So you'll see that the slide that's up there right now just gives you some hours of how much time was dedicated by 45 people this year. Compared to last year, we had 41 volunteers, and we did 2,319 and a half hours. This year, 2,510 and a half hours. This is the fun stuff, all the stats. So, like I said earlier, we've kind of leveled out with participants. This year, the people who checked in to come to programs up at the Senior Center, we served 821 people. Last year, we served 819 people. So it's, we are up, though, in the amount of time that they participated in. That's that duplicated number. So 821 clients this year came up 11,888 times to participate in different programs. And they don't just come from Lunenburg. We welcome people from, anywhere in the community. Home-delivered meals, Meals on Wheels. We have 45 clients in FY18, and we served 4,114 meals. Last year, we had 48 clients for 4,183 meals, and that's not a bad thing when that number goes down, because that means that people are doing better in their homes, and they don't need that help. The senior van that you see riding around town, we had 68 clients this year. We did 3,244 rides to medical appointments, hairdressers, banks, up to the senior center to go shopping. Last year, we had 64 clients, and we did 3,177 rides. So it's still close in numbers, but like I said, that's expected. Other things you might not know, and here's some of the special programs that we did. We had donations come in memory of Therese Barney. And what we did was the Yellow Dot program, which is an emergency information kit that you put in your glove compartment. We gave out 99 kits to 77 people. We have plenty more left. So if you'd like one, stop up to the senior center and pick one up. The Are You OK program, this is an automated phone call that's made from the Neshoba Valley Dispatch. And it comes to your house as many times a day as you want. You don't have to speak to anybody. You just pick up the phone. There's a short recording. You hang it up. If nobody answers the phone, it automatically calls back. And if somebody doesn't pick it up then emergency personnel are notified, and they go out to your home and make sure everything's okay. So this year they did 1,683 wellness phone calls to 7 people. So that's a lot. They get them every day of the week, and on the weekends, some get multiple during the day. So if you're interested in that, talk to Pauline. She'll set you up with that. And the Sand for Seniors program, I'd like to thank the DPW for opening that up to us. This program is meant for homebound people who can't get out of their driveways in the winter. They cannot get out to get a bucket of sand. It's not a replacement for the closure of the sand pile. It's for people who legitimately can't get out. And the fire department came and they picked up 51 buckets of sand. They delivered them to 44 people, and while they were there, they were able to check their smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. So hand in hand, that's another great program that goes together. And if you're interested in that, once again, if you can't get out of your house to get sand, give us a call. Or if you know somebody, a neighbor or somebody like that, and we can help them out. This year we had a couple of retirements. Faith Anderson, our longtime outreach coordinator, had retired. Joanne Brazel, she was in our meal site. She was our meal site coordinator. And Brian Gannard off of the Council on Aging Board. Pauline Roy, we welcomed her in as the new outreach coordinator. Jim Barrett, he's our new van driver. We're now up to 3 van drivers. And Sandy Ricci, Lieutenant Ricci's stepmother. So she's our new meal site manager. And we'd be remiss if we didn't thank Leanne Normandin, who stepped up when we needed van drivers. She came in, she was trained by Mart, and she filled in as a senior van driver. And she's gone on to bigger and better things out of state, but we want to thank her for helping us out. And in FY19, I'll keep this short, I just want to let you know that we are in the process of becoming a dementia-friendly community, which, if you don't know what that is, I don't know where to look. Everything in the community, from town government to businesses, to the schools, to the senior center, to the doctor's offices, to all the businesses in town, can be educated in people who have dementia and how to work with them and not have that stigma with them anymore. So the first step we're taking in that is we are doing a memory cafe called Espresso Yourself at the Eagle House Memory Cafe. And we just kicked it off yesterday. We are having our first meeting on Friday, September 28th from 10 to 12 noon, and we have Ben Franklin, the Pet Partners Therapy Dog, coming up. It's social contact for those dealing with memory loss and their caregivers. Caregivers must be there. It's peer support in an informal, relaxed, and stigma-free environment. There'll be coffee, treats, and enjoyable activities, all provided at no charge. And right now, it's the Executive Office of Elder Affairs Formula Grant Funds that is funding this. The supporters of the Eagle House and any donations that come into the Lunenburg Council on Aging Gift Fund will go towards that. So we're really excited about that, and that's the end of the slideshow. Questions? Anything?
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Any questions from anyone on the board? Anything else we can explain? Thanks.
No, I'd just like to mention that I think, as Mr. Ebersol said, this is a bar that was set for other committees, and I think we've talked about the communication that can go on between committees in the town, and we offer this platform to all the committees and love the format. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our 7:25 appointment is a toll booth fundraiser request for August 4th from the Lunenburg Bengals.
Hello, Joe Anderson, 780 West Street, also the Director of Fundraising for the Bengals. So we're trying to do a toll booth for the 4th of August from 11 to 3 for Lunenburg Bengals Football Youth and Cheer Association.
So what day of the week is the 4th?
Saturday.
Saturday.
Okay. And it says you at the time you filled this out, you hadn't yet checked in with the police. Have you done that yet?
No, but
Okay.
I can in 2 seconds.
Okay, I see that it's okay. And you know that anybody collecting needs to be 18 and have
Yeah,
vests?
we have all the coaches and board members are all adults, and they'll be out there.
Any questions or comments?
I'd make a motion, we approve the Lunenburg Bengals Youth Football and Cheer Association toll booth boot drive fundraiser on Saturday, August 4th from 11 to 3 p.m.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, our 7:30 appointment is a discussion of entertainment and special event licenses and a townwide noise bylaw and a discussion of recent activity at the Shady Point Beach Campground. This is a continuation from our June 19th, 2018 meeting.
So, like Chairman Toll said, this is a continuation of that discussion on the 19th. We have with us tonight Police Chief Marino to give an update on the noise bylaw that's being drafted for the special town meeting, as well as in your packet is a report from the land use director following up on the questions that were brought up at the last meeting. There are also what is in front of the board tonight is a report from the land use director, which discusses questions brought up by the board at the last meeting on June 19th. Want me to read that letter?
Yeah, if you want, sure.
Okay. This was addressed to myself, Heather Lemieux, Town Manager, from Adam Burney, Land Use Director, regarding 701 Reservoir Road, Shady Point. As a follow-up to the Board of Selectmen's meeting on June 19th, 2018, the Building Commissioner and I have been reviewing the records for 701 Reservoir Road, Shady Point. The impetus for this review is the recent noise complaint brought forward to the Town Manager's office on May 15th, 2018. Regardless, the review will cover the entirety of the attached 2001 special permit and remains ongoing. As background, on October 9th, 2001, the Zoning Board of Appeals issued a special permit to allow the extension of a non-conforming use, in this instance, a campground. The special permit increased the number of campsites from 13 to 35, provided a maximum number of 8 people per campsite with a total limit of 505 patrons at any time, inclusive of the function areas, limited the number of boats allowed in conjunction with Shady Point to 40, and imposed some additional conditions outlined in the attached document. At the Board of Selectmen's meeting, there was some discussion regarding noise, but other issues were also brought up at that the special permit may cover. The 3 most prominent issues, other than noise, seem to be boat water safety, crowd control, and traffic. There are conditions contained within the special permit that may assist in reducing some of these concerns. However, boat water safety is not governed by the special permit. If conditions number 5, 6, 8, 9, 14, 18, and 20 are not being complied with, moving Shady Point into compliance could potentially reduce some of the impacts that residents of Shirley Reservoir are concerned with. In order to address the aforementioned issues and work towards creating a more harmonious relationship between the town, the neighbors, and Shady Point, Chief Marino contacted the owners of Shady Point in an attempt to set up a meeting to discuss these matters. Unfortunately, this meeting never materialized. As a result, the building commissioner will be scheduling a site visit at Shady Point to review their compliance with the conditions and requirements of the special permit. Furthermore, in reviewing the file for Shady Point and searching the Worcester Northern Registry of Deeds, there is no documentation of the special permit decision having been recorded. While this is generally a requirement of the General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 11, the fact that Shady Point has been operating under the approval for nearly 17 years, and there is a record of attempted enforcement by town officials, it is the opinion of the building commissioner that the special permit is in full force and effect. As noted above, the building department's investigation into the compliance of Shady Point with the October 9, 2001 special permit remains ongoing, and any pertinent findings will be forwarded to your office. If you require further information, please do not hesitate to contact me.
Thank you. Now, specifically, one of the things we talked about was the noise ordinance, so maybe the chief can bring us up to date on where we stand with that.
Good evening. I don't have really much more to report on that. I've made all the corrections suggested by town council. I've been in touch with him and...
Chief, people can't hear you.
All right, with respect to the noise ordinance, it was drafted up some time ago. The town council and I reviewed it. He made some suggestions with respect to language. I made those corrections that he suggested, and now I want, before the special town meeting in the fall, I want to do a second review of the bylaw, which I anticipate that being completed probably by next week. And once that's done, we're just waiting for a town meeting to submit it to the voters. Not much more than that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Please.
Will we have a chance to review it?
Absolutely. I can send it to you now if you would
Well,
like.
I mean, if you once you feel like it's set for town meeting, you think in another week or so.
Yeah. That's my hope.
I'd love to look at it then.
I would like town council to review
Yes.
the corrections first.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to read it now, I'd be happy to.
No.
forward.
Once town council has blessed it, that would be great.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Are there any comments or questions from the board before?
I have one question. Has town council reviewed this decision?
Which decision?
The building inspector's opinion.
No, this was, this memo was received today.
Yeah, we didn't get it till like after 4. but that, I would be very interested in town council's opinion of the building department's determination.
Regarding the legitimacy of the special permit, that particular part? Because the letter's coming from Adam, not the building inspector.
Well, I guess on the letter and the building inspector's opinion.
For what it's worth, what I read in the letter is that the building inspector is continuing to try to work with Shady Point to make sure that we're enforcing the conditions that were in the original.
Well, my confusion is that it was my understanding that if a special permit is not recorded, then it doesn't go into play. So I don't understand.
Well, I'm not sure anybody's claiming that. I guess what I'm saying is, I think
There is no documentation.
I read that this is somebody being thorough that said, as part of the review, they noticed that it wasn't recorded, but that it's their opinion that it's still enforceable.
But if you look at the special permit, it says it doesn't go into effect until it's recorded, and that has to happen within 2 years. So
It wouldn't hurt to have town council opine
Yeah,
to it,
right.
because he may find that as a result of the way the town's acted, that it's considered to be in effect, and we need to have some sort of...
Right.
yeah, I just would like a legal opinion on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, I assume there's some folks here that would like to speak. Is there anyone here that represents Shady Point? Okay,
Nicholas LaFountain, I represent Robin.
please.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. My name is Nick LaFountain, Nicholas LaFountain.
Again, people can't hear you if you don't speak up.
My apologies. My name is Nicholas LaFountain. I represent Ronald and Robin Wilson, the
They
owners.
still can't hear you. They're
The
going
owners
like
of
this.
Shady Point. Is there a way to adjust the microphone? It's just the way I talk.
You can actually take it off and hold it.
It's not my usual cup of tea to be holding a microphone when speaking. I do represent the owners of Shady Point. They are also friends of mine, and they have asked me to attend on their behalf today in a representative capacity as their counsel. Miss Wilson personally cannot be here. She has worlds with respect to figure skating that she participates in. Mr. Wilson and Miss Wilson both are also choosing to abstain from this hearing until such time as they have been able to retain specialized counseling with results to zoning. I am a general litigator. Zoning is not my cup of tea. I'm not sure if there's any questions. I do have some remarks prepared on their behalf, but I'm not sure exactly how you would like me to proceed.
This is a continuation of a discussion we had. I don't see it as a public hearing of any sort. I wanted to ensure that Shady Point had an opportunity to be here. If you'd like to go first, or if you'd like to hear what the folks have to say and then respond, we'll make sure you have that opportunity.
I'll listen and then respond. Thank you.
Fine. Would anybody like to speak?
Anyone live on the lake? Yep. Okay, everyone's nervous. I picked you. Is that scary? You look friendly. He's gonna go, because you're who?
I'm Mike DeFazio.
Mike DeFazio. He's my new neighbor, because we all live on the lake. We're all neighbors here. And do you have anything to say?
I'm just standing up behind Shady Point because I live in the channel, right in the channel.
Could you please, I know you got forced into service, but...
My name's Mike DeFazio. I live in the channel, 130 Flynn Road, and I watch every boat that goes through the channel because I'm right there. And Shady Point keeps a good job of containing the jet skis going fast. They throw them out when they're as soon as they do something wrong. And as soon as it comes 6 o'clock when they close, all the lake people come flying through the channel, jet skis, people pulling tubers through the channel, and that's illegal. But it's okay for the lake people to come and do that. People that ski through the channel, they're doing wrong as much as their business, with their clients that come in driving their jet skis. But they get thrown out. People on the lake don't get thrown out. So I'm standing up for Shady Point that people on the lake are just as bad as everybody else that comes in.
Thank you. Thanks.
Is this a meeting just regards to the noise or into all
Please.
aspects of what goes
I need you to stand at the microphone and give us your name and address, please.
Is this meeting just...
Could I have your name and address?
My name's Jason Rue, 100 Sunset Lane, right on the lake. I've been on the lake my whole life, from my aunt's house and other friends. Is this just strictly in regards to the noise or into all activities of how it affects us on the lake?
This meeting was a continuation of a meeting that was in response to a letter that was written to the town manager and looked into by the police department.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that discussion included, is there any noise ordinance? The answer to the question was there was not one, if I understand correctly, but we've been working on one, and that's that portion of the discussion. So at this point, we're just trying to determine what citizens feel, what action they believe we ought to be taking, if any, and we're just listening. Is that a fair representation of the board?
I have much to say. I just don't want to speak out of line and waste your time, just because it was all spoken about noise. There's a lot of things that affect us on the lake. There's a lot of traffic. I get it. Everybody's there. Everybody wants to have fun. I go to other lakes. I have fun there too. It gets to be a bit too much at times. I've had a lot of problems with the fishing tournaments in the past year or two. People being very rude to me at my own place, coming too close, hitting my boat, hitting my friends' boats, watching them do it, then hopping on to my friends' boats and unhooking their lures, taking off. Shady Point does what they can to control it. I just feel that there is entirely too many people at some times that are let on that are unsupervised. See a lot of kids riding in front of their parents on jet skis. Those aren't people from the lake. If it's looked up, that is highly illegal. It happens every day on the lake. You get kids on 300 horsepower jet skis with dad sitting behind them. They're not authorized to ride that jet ski. It clearly states all operators have to be in front of everybody else on a jet ski. I can go on and on, but just trying to get some control of the situation. I know it's their business, it's their home. I don't mind it. I just don't like it when it's out of control. When Sundays from noon to 4, I can't even go out my boat. It's a bit much. So I guess that's about it. I could elaborate, but I think that's all I have to say for now.
Thank you.
My turn?
Please.
I really don't need the mic. Because I've been in this room before, and I don't say I'm thrilled to be back.
Can I have your name and address, please?
John Tater, 135 Flynn Road. I am a distance from the swimming float at Shady Point as this town hall is from the church. I'm closer than any of their neighbors. I've been there since 1981 off and on, and I can tell you it's much nicer in the 21st century than it was in the 20th. And yes, they're going to get people there who, as the last gent said, they don't know how to run the skis, and I don't know how they police that. I mean, they need a small army. Yep, we understand on the lake. We don't take our boats out till those folks are gone. And I have to tell you, I'm a little tired. I think I'm missing opportunities. I wish I'd been there at 3:30 this morning on the 4th of July with a coffee truck at the end of my road. Now I'm going to ask some questions. Whose responsibility was it to file that permit? The property owner or the town with the Registry of Deeds? Can anybody answer that?
Property owner.
And I'm totally unaware of this special town meeting that's been talked about. Is this the only subject on the town meeting?
No.
Has it been published and I've missed it?
No.
Because I don't read the Lunenburg Ledger?
No. Sir, there's an annual town meeting every year. There's almost every year, there's a special town meeting in the fall. And any items that require town meeting approval or special town meeting approval go on the warrant. At this point, the chief is working on a noise ordinance that, if it's appropriate, will find its way onto that warrant and will be duly advertised.
So this will be the generic fall special town meeting,
And the warrant will be mailed to every household in Lunenburg, so you will get notice.
as the system works. Very well, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, Shelley King, 833 Flat Hill Road. Can everybody hear me? Okay. My biggest concern is that I watched the town meeting that happened last time where this topic came up, and I heard our chief of police say he was concerned for the safety. That he knew that there needed to be people out on boats monitoring the jet skis, and he couldn't send them out because he was concerned for the safety of the people out on Shady Point. That concerns me for our town. I think you should talk to town council about that as well. I see that as a liability for our town. We do see jet skis out there. We know they're not people on the lake. We've lived there a long time. We know who lives there. Sure, they could be visitors, but it's about capacity and it's about safety. And recently, has it been better? Absolutely. The environmental police have been there, and there have been more police. It's gotten better, and it's been just a few weeks that it's been better. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I have a couple
Please.
thoughts?
Sure.
One, in regards to just zoning and planning issues, I don't feel like that falls under the Board of Selectmen. Wouldn't that go into zoning and planning anyways, in terms of there never being a resolution we would provide, other than to just simply be discussing it? I'm just clarifying.
I don't understand the question.
So what would happen is that it comes under the Board of Selectmen because we appoint the building inspector, who's also the zoning officer, I believe that was.
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement. So it doesn't go to the planning board for enforcement, it goes to the code enforcement. So Adam Burney, and through that, so that's why we're involved to some extent. But
So
it's
would it
not- it's not-
officially ever cycle back to us in a formal capacity? I'm just curious.
So appeal of the building inspector, code enforcement goes to court, not to
Right.
us. It does not come to us officially, but we're sort of the
So we
hearing.
won't play a role in that topic, technically.
If there was an appeal made that was denied by the ZBA, then it would go to court. There would be no, wouldn't come back to the board.
Okay, and then just another general comment. I think the simplest place to start would be to take the fact that there already is this special permit that we would assume is in use for now, and look at the conditions, and it looks like that's what Adam recommended, is to just, there may be some very simple compromise solutions that already exist by following, I mean, it's a long list here of conditions, and I think that's probably the easiest place to start, is to just comply with what already exists. And then sort of removing myself from either side of it, a topic that's been going on all year is the concept of ecotourism, or bringing people to Lunenburg to recreate, to enjoy trails, or to enjoy what's naturally here. And in its own way, that's what Shady Point is. It's a campground to bring people to recreate in Lunenburg. And we talk an awful lot about promoting it, enhancing it, encouraging it, bringing people into our trails, selling things so more people can come into our trails. And if that's truly something we aspire to do, this is what's already here, a campground, and people don't seem happy with it. So I think I like to, sort of take a step back and look at it, and what it is Lunenburg providing an opportunity for people to come here to recreate. And we've talked an awful lot about wanting that to be a part of who we are, without looking specifically at things that we can compromise and fix, like a noise ordinance. If it's too noisy, then a noise ordinance doesn't just help this scenario, it how does it help other scenarios or affect it? I don't want to look at this one property or this one space and apply everything to that. I think we should be careful to look at it as any business or any future business that's similar to this. Don't know if that makes sense, but okay, thank you.
I'm a couple of things. One, I think that it's important that the process with the code enforcement go forward and fully investigate this. I also think that we need to continue to support the police department and in its enforcement on there, because that is, in addition to the responsibilities of the landowner to manage the people that are going there, I think we have some responsibility to support enforcement of boating requirements by the police department, subject to availability, as Mrs. Adams talked about earlier, as far as what's going on in town, whether there's capability, and whether there's any opportunity to talk with the landowners to possibly support a police presence paid by them might be another compromise, especially on large populations. But that's not something I can force, or I don't think this board can force. But that might be during the discussion phase of communication.
Please.
Janet Levitt from 30 May Street in Lunenburg. Miss Adams, have you ever been to Shady Point?
I've driven by it, but...
You've driven by it, okay.
But I don't want to be on trial.
No, you're not. You're not on trial.
I grew up on a lake, so I didn't need to go.
Unfortunately, I understand that you want people to come to Lunenburg and enjoy our resources. I understand that with that comes traffic and noise and other things.
Just want to stop for a minute that I didn't say I was promoting ecotourism. It's something that's been a large part of a huge discussion in town.
I get it. I do get it.
Okay.
What you're not understanding is that we're getting a lot of people who are not only a little bit noisy and a little bit messy and have a little bit of a good time, they overdo it to the point where people who live there all the time can't enjoy their own properties. It's not that we want to run Shady Point out of business. It's that we want everybody to understand people on the lake pay a premium on their land for living on the lake. We deserve to be able to enjoy our properties without worrying about our grandchildren in the water because there's some nutcake on a jet ski that's coming too close to the beach, without waking up at 10 o'clock in the morning to the biddy bop music. That listen to whatever you want to listen to, but listen to it at a volume that doesn't bother everybody else. Shady Point has been there a long time. That's fine. We don't want to run businesses out of town, but have some respect. And that's the part that bothers me. Have some respect for the other people who are there all the time. In the end, we're the ones paying the bill. In the end, we're the ones that are cleaning up the trash that gets thrown to the side of the road, the trash that washes up on the beach, the fishing lures that are left stuck to our boats, our trees, our beaches, our docks. Help, please, just help. Quiet them down, let's have some order. Thank you to Chief for having more people on the lake looking out for people who genuinely want to enjoy their property. We need more. We are taxpayers. We appreciate everything that you've done, but you want to hear what people have to say to you, and you want to appreciate the fact that this is upsetting. It's very upsetting. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Mr. Chair, if I may. I just wanted to say that the first thing I said is I think any conditions that aren't being followed should be followed, but just to be sure that there's...
And I understand that, Ms. Adams. I'm
So
not attacking you personally,
Okay.
but the comments agitated me to the point where I needed to speak up and let you understand that this is not, it's not willy-nilly we're whining because it's noisy. It's not that we want people to be out of business or have their livelihood taken away. We want to be safe, we want to be clean, we want to enjoy our property, we want to get the full force of what we are paying for in our taxes. That's all.
And part of the ecotourism topic, I didn't say whether or not I agreed with it. I just said that this serves as an example of what that topic could happen if the trail behind my house has 50 people on it a day. So there may have been more to what I was saying than what you interpreted.
I get it.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gary Spint. I live on Ruth Street, 7 Ruth Street. I also live on the lake. I'd like to have a little bit of assistance by the council if I could. A question that I had entered in, you were talking about cost of policing the lake. And I believe, I've heard, I haven't heard, and maybe you could fill me in on this, that Shady Point pays a substantial amount of their money to police the lake. I've heard anywhere from $10,000 to $18,000 last year spent for policing the lake. Could you assist me with that, please?
My clients have not had much time to put this together, but a cursory review of the funds they spent in 2016 for police details are $16,473.72. 2017, $13,229.43. And prior to last weekend, they had already spent $9,425.35 in 2018 to date, prior to last weekend.
Thank you very much. My only comment would be that in the spirit of compromise, in the spirit of getting along, that they seem to be paying a lot. And according to the lady here, yes, we can always need more, and we need help. So maybe there could be some chipping in for those expenses from the town of Lunenburg.
Scott Benjamin, 40 Fire Road, 12. I live on a portion of the lake that's probably too narrow for one boat to legally go through above 6 miles an hour. And what that means, it's less than 300 feet in width. By the Massachusetts boating laws, you have to be 150 feet from shore, from a designated swimming area, to go above 6 miles an hour. When I see 4 jet skis or 5 jet skis go side by side by side, some of them 20 feet from my dock, that scares me. Scares me so I can't swim, can't let my dog off, and I want to promote safety. And I don't think the lake can fully support 40 boats. What I've seen over the past month, since July 4th, is a big reduction in the number of boats from Shady Point. I've been able to see my neighbors enjoy the lake, and I've been able to see the boaters from Shady Point, the fewer number, being able to enjoy the lake. Now, I feel that itself is a big improvement. But the biggest thing is to promote safety. If Shady Point goes back to the June or back to last year, I don't feel like I can't use my boat in the middle of the day. I can't use my boat until Shady Point closes. Is that fair? I'm not trying to come up with a solution, but when I see my neighbors being able to enjoy the lake, as well as some people from Shady Point to enjoy the lake, I think that's a good compromise. Shady Point recently has waited until at least 9 o'clock in the morning to let at least noisy jet skiers come on the lake. That has been a big improvement. I would like to see something in writing that makes Shady Point, or that puts the efforts that they've done since July 4th be more permanent, so that we as lake members can, and I think that everybody's agreeing that it's gotten a lot better over the past few weeks. So what can we do to make what they've done more permanent? How can we officialize what the progress that they've made? I think the progress has been great, but I'd like to make it next week. What are they going to do? Thank you.
Kathy Rue Reinhardt, 53 Pearl Street. So I am directly across the lake from Shady Point. And for those of you that don't know, that is one of the largest sections of land. And I have to commend Shady Point because I do think they are doing better. They are trying. They need to make a living. I'm with Jan all for it. I believe that if they're spending that much money on the safety of jet skis or boats that are coming in, are they really making that much money incoming to eliminate the jet skis? The jet skis, I know Jason mentioned the boaters and a couple mentioned the fishermen as well, but I think it's the jet skiers that are more hazardous to all of us, and I cannot believe that they are taking in that much money from jet skis, that they could save that money and say, we do not allow jet skis anymore. Save your $16,000. I know they are trying, and we are all trying, but as was stated, we cannot use the lake safely when all of these boats are out. So, thank you.
Please.
The numbers I shared regarding what they paid for details is not specific to jet skis. That's what they've paid for police details. As I believe most people know, they do hire walking details to patrol the property. And in the past, when there has been a boat available, they have also obtained the boat detail. But my understanding from the video last year and conversations with my clients is that there is no boat detail currently available for them to procure.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
So the prices that you're quoting are prices for them to control the people on the property?
That is what they've paid in total for police details in those years.
For just on the property?
No, it would include all police details, whether boat details or land details.
So I guess I didn't understand your last comment.
This year the boat's broken, so the money this year hasn't gone towards boat details, right?
Correct. I don't have.
It's not split
discrete
between
numbers.
land and water. That's just how much money they paid for police details in a year.
But the police boat's been out.
No, their boat, not the police boat.
The pontoon boat that goes up and down?
I'm not certain what you're referring to, but
I'm not sure what you're referring to either.
I'm not referring to anything. I watched the last meeting, and I saw the chief explain that the police boat, the actual police boat, is not in service, and that's my understanding from my clients. If my clients are allowing the police to use their boat, which I think is what you were suggesting, it's possible, I wouldn't know. I would defer to the police chief on that.
No, I know that the police boat has been out some. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Who pays for the police boat when it's out there?
They've been paying for it.
Okay. So every time you see the police boat out there, Shady Point's been paying for that boat.
Was I correct that as of the June meeting, there was no, the police boat was out of service, correct?
It was, but we fixed it.
Okay.
Not to use it.
Thank you.
So Chief, the town isn't incurring any expense on the lake?
No, they pay for the boat.
All police details are covered by Shady Point? Okay, all right, thank you.
Please. I'm going to take 2 or 3 more. Come on.
You get sorry.
No,
because we're televised and the audience wants to know what's going on too.
At-home audience. It's riveting.
I'm back. So, Chief, why doesn't the town kick anything in towards policing the lake?
Let me clarify something, because I just looked over and saw Joanne standing there.
Chief, I'm going to ask you to stand at the microphone too, please.
I just want to clarify something, because I saw Joanne standing there when I turned around, and I was talking about details. This year, Shady Point's paid for the details thus far. In the past, the association has kicked in as well. Well, both, association and Shady Point. That's how we fund it, because we do not have it in our budget. So it gets paid as a detail by the private firm that owns Shady Point. And as I said in the past, some of it came from the
Lake Shirley.
Lake Shirley Association. Did that
Okay.
answer your question?
It does answer my question in part. The other part of that being, okay, so are we not residents as well? Is it not private property around a public waterway?
Well, they elected to hire police.
Yes, but I'm asking these guys who in effect give you your budget, right? Don't those 200 and some odd families who pay taxes around the lake deserve to have some police coverage? Don't we deserve to be able to put that police boat in the water, not just at Shady Points and not just at our cost, but also at the community cost, since it is a public waterway?
When they create the condition that requires public safety, then they're going to pay for it. That's how it works. The town doesn't have to pay for that. They're not creating a condition that caused it. They are, the businesses.
Yes.
So they hire the police detail.
Yes, but Chief, you police the roadways, right? Those are public ways? The waterway is also a public way. So I'm asking this board, who approves all the budgets and gives out what is going to be given to you and every other board in town, why aren't they considering that the lake needs to be policed as well?
Well, I get your point, but I just want you to understand that the condition that causes the problem is paid for by, public safety is just paid for by the person who causes it. Just like a contractor goes out in the middle of the road, is creating an unsafe condition in the middle of the road. He has to hire a police detail to make the roads stay safe.
Yes, you're saying they should bear the
Same
burden.
idea.
You're saying they should bear the burden. But you have, for instance, speed traps from time to time, right? This just makes common sense to me. Maybe it doesn't make common sense to any of you.
Mr. Chair.
But it makes sense to me that do some prevention. That's all.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sure. A lot of people weren't here at the beginning. I'd made a board comment from something that I've been talking about for over a year and a half. And so if you weren't tuned in at home before you came, you probably missed it. And our police chief has talked about it for years. We are extremely understaffed on our police force, and we have 2 patrol officers covering the entire town on a typical shift. And I was at an accident scene Saturday night, and the officer came right from one scene to the next. She had to, I don't necessarily know if she was making an arrest, but she took someone into custody alone, and she shouldn't have had to do that because somebody else was on the other scene still, and then they showed up. And so we are so understaffed that if we fund public safety more, being able to supply officers for these things will happen, and I think that's a good thing. This is something that we've been talking a lot about, and I've been talking about for about a year and a half, is I don't know specifically how many, but maybe we have about 15 less officers than most towns our size. And if you imagine how you'd apply that 15 to being available for different things, I think that's something the whole community can think about. Because this is the perfect example of a way that an additional officer could be positively utilized.
Understand the problem. Just think that sometimes all things are not equal in town. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna give the floor to the representative from Shady Point because I promised I would.
One quick response to what the chief said. My clients are not going to stop obtaining details. That's not their intent, but I would disagree with the analogy to a contractor who is digging up the road. My client is not creating a condition. This is a public body of water that all members of the public have the right to. My client believes, I haven't researched this myself, but my client believes that the town has even come to some sort of agreement with the Commonwealth to ensure public access in exchange for maybe funding for a dam, something along those lines. Again, I haven't researched it, just my very general understanding. With respect to discussing a proposed noise ordinance while simultaneously discussing a single business, seems very clear to my clients that this proposed noise ordinance, it just kind of seems like a case of privileged people around the lake do not want their clientele at the lake. We just heard reference to bebop music. My clients do not mean to imply that anyone who ever makes a complaint about noise or about boat traffic, in any respect, they are not implying that just making a complaint is based on any internal prejudice. My client loves this community. My clients love the people in this community. Robin's family has operated this business since 1967. This business has been going on for 85 years. Her family has taken it over since 1967. They have felt under siege before with people trying to shut them down. They kind of feel the same way now, which is why they will be getting zoning council. They want to keep operating this business. I don't know if people are aware, but there was a time when they had been considering having this land developed into condominiums and cashing out. They haven't moved forward with that. They want to continue the family business. If the family business can't be continued because restrictions that are really targeted at them make that impractical, I'm sure they'll reconsider that. They also intend, just to be clear, they intend to reach out to the ACLU on this and any other related organizations because they have a very well-known clientele. They have a lot of foreign-born persons who use their property, people of minority origin, people who live in inner cities whose kids really don't have public places like, open spaces like Shady Point to visit. They do feel there's animosity towards their specific type of clientele and the type of music that their clientele likes to play. They think the allegations against them, while some of them are legitimate, they also, they live there. They hear music coming across the lake, not from their property. Whether it's 10:30 at night, 11 at night, it's not them. If it's after, say, 7 o'clock, they are closing around 6 o'clock and starting to shepherd everyone out of there, out of respect for their neighbors. But there will be music late. With respect to the watercraft, you've heard, if my clients see any evidence of someone who launched from their property acting disrespectful on watercraft, even though it's a public lake, they're able to pull them because they control where the vehicle is parked and the access point. They pull people. That technically, if someone's acting disrespectful on public water, the police have to choose, do we arrest them or do we not arrest them? My clients have the means to actually eject them, and they do that. They have noticed many instances of people that live on this lake who are not following proper boater safety rules. Their own clients have complained, and they've watched people that did not launch from their property trying to jump the wake of their clients' boats, people water skiing through the channel, people water skiing without a spotter on the boat. We're not hearing much of that, but my clients see it all the time from people that did not launch a boat at Shady Point. As I've already stated, they do pay significant sums of money for police details because they want to make sure to control things as much as possible out of respect for their neighbors. My clients will be ecstatic if there is always a boat on that lake. I'm not here to commit to any financial expenditure. I don't have that kind of authority. But my clients will have no complaint if this board is able to allocate additional funds for the police to have a constant presence there during the summer. They think that would be a fantastic idea. But they strenuously disagree with passing a noise ordinance that's targeted at a single business that's been in existence for 85 years. The petitioners behind that ordinance claim they're not trying to shut them down. My clients have seen the Facebook page. They've seen Shut Down Shady Point. They've been through this before. If you say, we don't want to shut you down, but we want to pass an ordinance so that your people can't continue to visit and play music the way they have for 50, 60, 70 years, you're shutting them down. You're turning the clientele away and just shutting them down indirectly. With respect to limiting the number of boats on a day use basis that was in the petition, again, that's targeted at my clients. This is a public body of water. I believe that would be up to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to decide what kind of limits go into the public, but again, I'm not a zoning expert. I will defer to successor counsel on that. My clients also have a complaint. Neighbors have apparently, on occasion, allowed people to park on their property. My clients assume it's for a fee, and then send them over. They say, just park here. This has caused an issue for my clients before because they shut their gate. There comes a point where they say, it's either too late or we have too many people and we don't want any more people. And when people show up at your gate expecting to walk through after having just paid somebody, they take offense to not being allowed in. But my clients do not condone that, do not encourage that, have nothing to do with that, but they would like to see that stop. My clients have been trying to accommodate neighbors' concerns without actually shutting down their business for years. Things they have changed themselves without being forced to. They've delayed the opening to 8 o'clock in the morning. Historically, this place was always open at 7 o'clock before they made that change. They close at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. Historically, that used to be 8 o'clock. They prohibit any music until 9 o'clock, where prior operators would allow it at 7 in the morning. They do not allow any jet skis to launch from their property until 9 a.m. Used to be 7 a.m. before they were in control. On Saturday and Sundays, if someone launches from them, they're told, you have to have that jet ski out of the water by 6 o'clock. They also check the registration on jet skis, and if it's not registered, they won't let them launch from their property. They have hired the police boat when they have been able to. They do hire police to walk their land. On the 4th of July, they try to have a cruiser on Reservoir Road just to help with traffic. They have also taken pains to try, they had I don't know if it was an internal study or an external study, but they now try to have cars park in a specific manner which is designed to keep any music playing from the car from traveling across the lake. They're trying to point the noise towards their actual house, which is on Shady Point. And they also do give back to this community. They allow neighborhood families to come and use the swing sets in the beach without charge. They do not charge lake residents to use their boat launch. They do not charge lake residents who are renting their dock to allow their guests to come launch the boat and pull the boat from there to help the residents who are renting their dock. They allow the Lunenburg Snowmobile Club to use their property free of charge. They allow the Lunenburg Boys and Girls Club to use their property free of charge. And they give reduced rates to any Lunenburg residents, whether they are a neighborhood of the lake or not. They love this town, they care about this town, but they're asking this town to please not start passing specific ordinances designed to put them out of business. They want to stay here. They want this to continue. They do not want to have this property developed. But if they're not able to operate, obviously no one's conceding that any ordinance would be permissible in this context. It's not my cup of tea. But if it ever turns out that they can't operate, well, the lake is going to lose very valuable open land, and it's just going to have more development. No one is going to, who's going to really pay fair market value for that piece of property without intending to develop it and to maximize the amount of units, most likely under the state's Chapter 40B statutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments. I just want to mention that although they're grouped together on our agenda, tonight's discussion was on entertainment and special event licenses, townwide noise bylaw, and a discussion of recent activity on Shady Point. These were all three different items that were brought to the attention of the board that we scheduled for a meeting in June and discussed and decided to postpone or continue to this evening. We're working on all three. I don't believe that any one of them is directed towards Shady Point. They are connected. The last time we had a crowd in here like this was another noise ordinance or special event license, and that's what tends to get people to come out to give us their opinion, and that's excellent. That's what we want to hear. We're not here this evening to make any decisions. We're here to listen. I think we've heard an awful lot. I believe the chief wants to say something. Sure.
The idea of this noise ordinance, I can guarantee you, Counselor, has absolutely nothing to do with Shady Point. As a matter of fact, it was as a result of a special permit that was issued by the board over a year ago, where a group of residents, as the chairman said, came forward and requested that we enact some type of noise ordinance. So wherever you got that idea, I would say that it's completely false. I would also say that when it was brought to my attention by a group of residents, like I said, about a year ago, it occurred to me that we can't even enforce a noise created by somebody who decides to start up their chainsaw at 3 o'clock in the morning. So we thought this was a really good idea to work on drafting an ordinance. Had absolutely nothing to do with Shady Point, nothing. It just came up in the conversation a couple weeks ago during another hearing. So I want you to take that back to your client. Absolutely has nothing to do with it. And with respect to your comment about creating conditions, Shady Point is, as far as cooperation, I have nothing bad to say about them. They're very cooperative. However, I don't know of another house down there that can create a condition where there's cars parked up and down the road that requires a police response, or where there's a group of people on a piece of private property in excess of 200. That creates, in my estimation, a potential problem, and that's why it's my core managerial prerogative to decide how many police officers are going to be stationed at that area. And if they create it, then we're going to require them to pay for it. So I disagree with your analogy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Please.
Joanna Bellata, 362 Sunset Lane. Hi, how are you? It's been a while. I live right directly across from Shady Point on the peninsula. I've known them my whole life. They are 6 kids that all went to Lunenburg School, grandkids all went to Lunenburg School. It's a family-owned business, mom and pop, Saturday and Sunday business. They've had their ups and downs from where it was all day Saturday, all day Sunday, from 7 to 8, 9 o'clock at night. Fitchburg State would have a bus come with a Budweiser truck. Back in the day when companies had functions where you could go and drink on Saturday with your family, They would host, this was back in the 70s, early 80s, they would host all kinds of functions, Knights of Columbus, Borden's Chemical, all these other companies would come. So it was kind of a mixed use there. Now, one of the children has taken it over, Robin and Ron Wilson. I'm close with the DeFazio family. I grew up with them, living right across from them. They're great people. Mr. Wilson is on our LSIC board, and I'm speaking for Joanna, not the board, at this current time. And anytime I've called Shady Point with any problem, they have been very user-friendly, very cooperative. And I think it's that you want to find a balance between police patrol and the right to do business. You know, Kimball Farms opens in May, April. I buy a house on 119, 110, and then say, geez, I really don't like these lights coming in the house. I want you to close at 10 versus 11. It's kind of, first, you got to know where you're buying. And anybody that buys a house usually does come to me because I'm on the website. So they go to the website, they see the president, they call me about buying a house. And I always tell them, you know, wherever you're buying, grab a chair, come sit between Sunday 11 and 2, so you know exactly what you're buying across from. There's a house for sale. One of my cousins, 2 houses up, is selling their home. I posted it on Facebook, the Lake Shirley website, the other day, and there was a post, you know, oh, that house is right across from the trashiest beach I've ever seen. It is not a trashy beach. Their main business is on Sundays, and by 5 p.m., they're all out there raking. By 6 p.m., I can sit on my patio and have dinner, and I don't hear a word. I think we have to sit, and at the Lake Association meeting last Wednesday, we had a great crowd of people, and as Chief Marino had said, the Lake Association used to pay for boat patrols. I would meet back with Chief Bourgeois at the time, and we would look through every weekend how we were going to book it, and we would book the patrols because he had a deer grant. If we all remember the $10,000 we get for the deer program. So we were able to take that money out of the deer grant funding. That money dried up, so then we started trying to be more creative. And then Shady Point stepped up and was donating $1,000, $2,000 a year for the boat patrol. So then it got to a point where I said, well, you know, you take over the boat patrol, you're really paying for it, I can remove myself. And that's where Shady Point has kind of now, in the last 2 years, facilitated the boat patrols. And I know I talked with Chief Marino and asked him for my annual meeting last year, what does Shady Point Play and Peace Patrol, because I want to be able to speak to that at the annual meeting. So he had given me the number, I think it was roughly $16,000, $17,000, and he had said he was able to fulfill, I believe, 58% of the requests at that time. So as I said at the Lake Association meeting last Wednesday, it's really, because this was the best 4th of July we ever had. The environmental police was out, the Lunenburg police was out, Shady Point had 2 boats out. I had 23 people at my home, and we sat on my front lawn and you didn't hear a word. It was wonderful. I actually went on Facebook and thanked everybody for the wonderful, it was one of the best 4th of Julys we've had. We have to find a balance where Shady Point pays for these patrols. It's a seasonal business, and start planning with the chief, and I said that we have to sit down with the chief, have some meetings, and figure out how we can get more, what do we call part-time policemen, not?
Reserve.
Reserve, thank you, Mr. Ebersol. Get reserve officers and know that we're hiring them from May to October, May to September, whatever that time frame is, and that we are hiring 6 just for the boat. They work Saturday and Sunday, 12 to 4, whatever those hours are, and they're going to be just on boat patrol. We hire Hickory Hills to utilize them. They have a great boat security system within their own group, something to that effect, where we're scheduling, Shady Point's paying them, so there's no town budget, except maybe the boat, the cost for the boat, registering it, fixing it, of any of that. And I'm sure if we work with Shady Point Lake Association, we can figure out that balance as well. But actually hiring for seasonal time frame reserves to handle that flow. And I think, because when they're out there, there isn't a problem. It's just for the Chief Marino being able to provide that. Now, this year, it happened, I woke up, I was going to work on a Tuesday morning, 7 o'clock, I saw people at Shady Point. I said, oh, they must be doing the Fitchburg State thing again. Oh, that's great, the kids are coming back. And by 11 o'clock, my phone at work was ringing crazy about all this stuff going on at Shady Point. So I called Mr. Wilson, and Mr. Wilson informed me that he had called the Lunenburg Police looking for details. It ended up being Lola Lawrence. I don't put in writing which one, I can't retain that. Senior Skip Day. We've all participated in Senior Skip Day. I didn't call Blips Fried Dough in Hampton Beach and say, I'm coming on Tuesday. Make sure you get a lot of fried dough because I'm bringing friends. We don't know they're coming. Ron didn't know they were coming. As soon as he came, he tried to make phone calls to get people there. He called family members to leave work to try to contain that situation. That happened. It's a blip. You learn from it. But if we have those reserves, we're able to now make some phone calls and prepare for that. So I think that everybody can coexist. Mr. Wilson comes to every Lake Association meeting. He hears feedback from everybody. I believe they actually hear it, and they are proactive at trying to implement the suggestions, the thought process. They're right now thinking for the Lake for the community. I've been asking for some type of Friday night, again, shadowing Hickory Hills, on like a bocce league, cornhole, volley, whatever the game is. But on Friday nights, we all go there 5 to 10, have hot dogs, chips, $5 a thing goes to Lake Association. So we're partnering to try to get more involvement where Shady Point and the residents are together so people can talk and express that. But I truly believe this is all fixable, just as long as we all sit in a room and communicate. Sometimes people think that the Lake Association or Joanna Bellata is a spokesperson for Shady Point. And I do respect them all, and I would stick up for any one of them. But my passion about the business that is there is totally open space. Because there's 365 days a year. All these conversations are about 15. The other 350, I look at total woods. If there's condos there, I'm looking at all those condos, docks, cookouts, barbecues, kids' birthday parties, people living there every single day, 365 days a year. I am being selfish for myself because for the, as I said, 350, all I look at is beautiful open space. And I want to maintain that open space. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up now. I think that the action items that that Mr. Burney's letter pointed out in the beginning talk to our enforcement officer, continuing to talk to the people at Shady Point, our police department continuing to do the best job they can, and all of us to try to be understanding. If in fact there's a decision that needs to be made, we'll bring it back and make a decision. But I don't believe there was one planned for tonight's agenda, nor do I believe we have a decision to take this evening. I do thank.
We also would want to check with town council.
Yes, we will do that. I want to thank everybody for being here and thank you for your input.
You're welcome to stay, but you don't have to.
Unrelated to this. Okay, our next agenda item is interview appointment, reappointment for acting police sergeant. Is he doing that?
I'll ask for the bids.
Chief, are you going to do the appointment, or is the town manager?
Wow. Want to reread his bio or anything? I didn't think of that.
No, sorry, I can take it.
Okay.
So at the last meeting, the chief did read the letter of his recommendation for appointment for acting police sergeant Sean Zarate, and that is being asked of you. That's to ratify my appointment of acting police sergeant Sean Zarate tonight.
I would make a motion that we ratify the town the appointment of Sean Zrate, acting police sergeant.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Chief,
very
and
much.
congratulations, Sean.
Oh, yeah. All right. I got to run. You all set with me? just gonna mark
The traffic rules and orders amendment.
Yes.
Yeah.
One more.
One more. You want to do one more? We can move down to that
Yeah,
now.
let's do that now.
Under current business, our first item is amendment to the traffic rules and orders.
Oh,
Okay, that was,
that's the parking out front?
yeah.
Main Street, yep.
Yeah, I got to straighten that out.
There's a letter from Jack and the chief to us, addressed to me, dated July 9th. Says, if I might, I hereby recommend the following revision to the Town of Lunenburg traffic rules and orders issued by the Board of Selectmen under the authority of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 22. Schedule 1, parking. Replace Main Street east side from Massachusetts Avenue to Oak Avenue, no parking anytime, with Main Street east side from Memorial Drive to Oak Avenue, no parking anytime.
That would make sense because the original way, we theoretically couldn't park across the street over there. I would make a motion that we approve the revision to the traffic rules and orders as presented by the police chief and director of DPW.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Chief.
I got to admit, when I was a kid, a teenager, I think I caused that no parking issue.
We'll hear about that when we do the whole thing.
I'll tell you that story when it's not in public, though.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. All right, so now we're back to item number 5, Town Manager Report.
Somewhat lengthy report tonight. A update on the Summer Street Road reconstruction project. The contractor will be installing drainage structures in Fitchburg on Monday, July 23rd. They're planning to start near John Fitch intersection and work their way towards Lunenburg. They're planning to begin work on the bridge over Baker Brook soon. An update on Route 13 Chase Road reconstruction project. Last week, a guardrail crew worked on straightening, repairing, and adding guardrail sections along the northbound lane of Route 13. The milling and grinding of the roadway surface is scheduled to begin on Wednesday, July 25th. So that's a heads up, so you might want to avoid that area during that time frame. The Economic Development Bond Bill. Nathan Boudreau of Senator Tran's office reached out last week to request any projects that we would like to file as an amendment to the Senate's version of the Economic Development Bond Bill that needed to be submitted no later than yesterday. The projects that I submitted for consideration for Lunenburg were $300,000 for the redevelopment of the property at 925 Massachusetts Avenue, $250,000 for the upstart cost for a community commercial kitchen, and $450,000 for facade and streetscape improvements in the downtown area of Main Street, Mass Ave, Leominster Ave, and Lancaster Ave. We will wait to see if these amendments make it into the filed Economic Development Bond Bill. We appreciate Senator Tran's office consistently seeking out the needs of our community and advocating on our behalf. 17 and 23 West Street. When I first arrived in Lunenburg, one of the projects that was brought to my attention by the DPW director was the disposal of the property at 17 and 23 West Street, which are two adjacent lots on West Street that have two old outbuildings that previously housed the highway department. 17 West Street was listed as old Parks Department land, and 23 West Street has 2 outbuildings that were used as the office space, garage facility, and material storage for Public Works that changed to a storage garage with a small office dedicated to the Parks Department in 1970. Town meeting authorized the disposal of this property at the May 4th, 2013 annual town meeting, Article 28. This town meeting vote transferred the ownership of the property, which totals approximately 1.2 acres, to the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of disposition. The property card for 23 West Street did not have a clear chain of title, so a title search was done on the property, and the town does, in fact, have a clear title. Due to the age of the 2 buildings and the equipment that was stored at the property, we hired an environmental consultant to perform a Phase 1 environmental site assessment. We recently received the results that determined there were no environmental threats on this property. Due to the age of the buildings, it is possible that asbestos-containing materials are present, along with lead-based paint surfaces, and proper inspection abatement as necessary procedures would need to be followed if demolition or remodeling were to occur to either building. The recommendation is to proceed with the disposal of this property in their current condition per the town meeting vote. Just for a point of information, the town assessed value is approximately $170,000, and this would need to be put out to bid for disposal. Move on. The Green Communities Competitive Grant. As announced at last week's Board of Selectmen's meeting, the Green Communities Competitive Grant application that the town submitted this past spring was awarded in the amount of $198,867 for a variety of energy efficiency projects at the Public Safety Building, the Town Hall, the Ritter, and Turkey Hill Elementary School. These include LED lighting upgrades, plug load controls, condensing boilers, building envelope tightening, pipe and fitting insulation, and HVAC retro commissioning. The total estimated annual electricity savings is 186,000 kilowatts, 2,241 therms for annual natural gas savings, and 703 gallons of oil per year, which translates into approximately 39,000 in energy savings annually. Once we receive the fully executed contract documents back from the Department of Energy Resources, which was sent out today, and meet our utility representatives regarding the energy incentives, we can proceed with having the approved energy consultant, Energy Source, move forward with these projects. The goal is to complete these projects by this fall. An update about a meeting with the Personnel Committee. At my request, I asked the Personnel Committee to have a meeting, which was held on July 16th. One of the items that I requested they discuss was performing a wage and classification review of all the positions within the existing classification schedule for the ensuing 3 years, which is one of the responsibilities set out in the Salary Administration Bylaw. The last review provided an updated wage and classification schedule through fiscal year 2019, and the goal was that the impending review would be presented at the May 2019 annual town meeting for acceptance. Due to the comprehensive nature of performing a compensation and classification review, the Personnel Committee is recommending to hire a third-party consultant to perform the review. We will be soliciting quotes and would need to request an appropriation at the special town meeting to fund this study. This will include performing a market analysis of towns with similar demographics with positions with the same level of responsibilities.
Just a quick question. Is that something MMA does?
No.
It's not?
No.
Okay.
Update on the town website. Last Tuesday, our website host, QSEN, had an all-day training for those that would be responsible for updating the website. We had approximately 20 employees attend the training, which included our IT staff that was available to assist individuals throughout the training. The IT director and I will be the administrators of the site, and the various back-end users of the site will have editing capabilities that get approved by the administrators before going live. Between now and the launch date, the users are updating their respective department, board, commission web pages and uploading any new content. The IT director and I had an administrative training yesterday, and we'll be tweaking content flow migration between now and the launch date. The feedback so far is that the back-end functionality is much easier to use than the current website. For visitors to the new website, it will be more visually appealing, easier to navigate, and has many features such as subscriptions that will inform and engage residents. We expect to launch the site in 1 month. An update on the regional animal control facility design. Last week, Police Chief Marino, Townsend Animal Control Officer Mary Letourneau, Lunenburg Animal Control Officer Kathy Como, and I met with the architects to review space needs and building functionality needs for a regional animal control facility. The land behind the public safety building has been identified as the primary site for a future building, and the architect was back out today with a civil engineer to assess the site for feasibility. The architect will work with Lunenburg and Townsend to assess our space needs, identify the optimal location for the building, provide a conceptual design, and a construction cost estimate. The goal is to have this complete by this fall and be eligible to apply for the Community Compact Regionalization Grant in late fall for construction costs. We had a department head meeting today, and here's some updates from the department head meeting. This morning, our risk management representatives from our insurance company, Maya, came in to provide an overview of the recent state legislation that requires towns to comply with OSHA safety regulations for public sector employees, which is in effect by February 1st, 2019. Maya will be assisting us with any areas of compliance we may need after an assessment. The state's main goal is safety first and compliance second, and that was stressed by Maya. Some other highlights from today's department head meeting. The police chief discussed the new personnel hired or promoted and officers that were replaced from the promotions. There needed to be another officer hired due to Lieutenant Luth's departure, and the continuation of programs with different departments that Lieutenant Luth was in charge of. The police boat that was part of the fiscal 19 capital plan has also been ordered. The Council on Aging director, as she spoke of tonight, talked about the memory cafe that will begin on September 28th. The trend of stable number of users of the senior center based on fiscal 18 statistics, and fall programming that will include health and wellness classes at the TC Passios, which is new. The public access coordinator has hired 2 new videographers, and the PAC is developing a job description for a production engineer that will have a background in IT. And they're currently working on a promotional video for the Eagle House. The land use director discussed the development of the recreational marijuana regulations that the planning board is working on, and how they will be taking a bifurcated approach that will be voted on at the special town meeting. The finance director discussed finalizing the end of the year reports to the Department of Revenue in order to submit for our certified free cash. The treasurer collector discussed real estate taxes are due August 1st, reminder for everyone, and that she's working with the tax title attorney to move properties into foreclosure proceedings. The assessor's office discussed the regional assessing firm, which is Regional Resource Group, RRG. They're currently working with the Department of Revenue on certification of our property assessments because this is a mandatory revaluation year. Any changes in assessments would be in the 3rd quarter bill due February 1st, 2019. And the library discussed that they moved to a new software platform that is web-based through CW Mars, and they're busy with the many summer programs, including Project Bread, that provides free meals on Mondays and Wednesdays for kids at the library. And they're providing that, they're seeing about 35 to 50 kids on those days. And other announcements, a reminder, Town Council office hours will be Monday, July 30th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the August office hours are August 28th from 2 to 6 p.m. I will be attending a regional dispatch meeting this Wednesday, the 25th. I will be attending a meeting at Montechusett Regional Planning Commission to discuss the ADA transition plans that they're helping various communities on. And we'll be attending a Parks Commission meeting Thursday night, as well as the Finance Committee meeting Thursday night.
The MRPC meeting on July 26th, what time is that?
10 a.m.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a few questions?
Sure.
First thing, I was kind of surprised by the $250,000 for upstart costs for a community commercial kitchen. It seems like that's coming from nowhere.
So something we've talked about at the TC Passios building is creating a commercial kitchen there in the past.
That was part of the workshop that we had with the Open Space Committee to see.
Yeah, but
I'll agree with Phyllis. I had a follow-up question on who chose these and why this wasn't a part of any type of community discussion.
Right.
Because there's such large sums of money and such interesting projects.
And, like a community commercial kitchen, what is that going to cost the town? Yeah, you have upstart costs. It's talking about the permitting fee thing, yeah, you got money from the state, the $40,000 to get it going, but now you're looking to hang the town with $15,000 a year in cost. So I would really, before that went anywhere, I would like to understand what's the potential cost to the town for running a community kitchen. I don't think we've done anywhere near enough discussion on it. It just feels like you plucked it out of the sky. I don't know why we didn't have a discussion on these before they were chosen.
The deadline, like I said, was Monday before the meeting.
But when did you find out about it?
Last week after our meeting.
I mean, I think we could have I would have gone to called a special meeting and attended something at the end of the week so that there could be participation in items like this.
Right. I agree.
Personally, I feel like we did talk about the community kitchen. It was actually during some public outreach events that we did too, that the item came up and was discussed, and mostly positive response about it. And I think that Heather handled it correctly with a short amount of time. I don't feel like the five of us would have done a better job picking three items in a special meeting.
Well, one of the big things about a community kitchen is every person who uses it has to have their own refrigerator space, and there's a lot of things that have to be worked out that could be costly to the town.
I think the assumption on this one was, when we talked about that, it wouldn't be any cost to the town.
Right, you're renting the space. It's not free to use the space.
And then the $300,000 for 925 was the gas station. We've been talking about that all along.
I have no problem with the gas station.
And facade and street improvements, that goes along sort of with the complete streets and trying to do things in the center of town. I think there are times when you have to let the town manager make some quick choices that go on here, of asking for funding in another part, and none of these surprised me based on discussions that have been going on in the past.
Well, I'm disappointed.
I agree. Nothing surprised me, and I also think that from time to time, when a senator or a state legislature is putting together a request for funds, they're looking for something that, quite frankly, sizzles, something that sounds like it could pass, and we could always turn it down if they offer us the money. I don't think this is a final plan. It's just you got a day. What would you put on the wish list to fly up the flagpole? And I don't have any problem with anything on this list.
I feel that if we got the grant, it would be hard. People would be hard pressed to turn it down. I think you make some pretty big decisions when you apply for the grant.
I agree. I also think with further brainstorming, just considering the entire town, was there not maybe something one of us could have thought of or contributed to that if these sum of monies were approved, I'd like to think to have brainstorming and multiple people's potential to have input in what could be a good project. We may have come up with something that we're just not thinking of under the circumstances. We didn't even know we had this option. I think it would be nice to have this type of information disseminated.
Yeah, and maybe we should come up with a potential list of things if something like this
Like
comes up.
emergency.
Right. Ideas. I had a couple more questions. Are you finished with that topic?
Sure.
Okay. In the West Street properties, when you say put out to bid for disposal, that means that the town wouldn't incur any demolition costs or anything like that. They just selling it as is for about $170,000. Okay.
Well,
we don't know about the 170.
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of at this point that's the idea.
I think we'll be lucky if we get that.
Maybe we'll get more. Prices are going up. Now, I know that I am probably just silly, but I don't know what bifurcated means.
Means
Two different options, like two different approaches that could occur.
I haven't been hanging out with Adam
One
enough,
would
have you?
get
I mean, it's like, can't we just use English? I think people make things unnecessarily complex. But okay, that's what bifurcated means. Thank you. And I appreciate the department head meeting updates. I think it's very valuable. I really appreciate that you're giving those to us. Thank you very much.
And if I may add something here, with the town website, it made me think of something Mr. Lincoln had said, where they used to have bios and pictures, and if there would be an opportunity to implement something like that, where there's a little bit more access to people learning about boards and committees and pictures and bios and
On the website.
On the website.
Yeah.
So like what he talked
Made
about.
that note as well.
But
If we
yeah,
could
so
have
that sort of
pictures
jumped
our
in.
Department heads or staff and committee members, if we could put that on the website.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because when I first started getting involved in learning, you have to piece together everything on your own, go to meetings, learn people's names. Lots of committees don't even list names, so I think it would be great to have a directory.
And with pictures, it would be fun.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, under old business, Board of Selectmen goals, we did approve a set of goals. They're in the minutes that we're going to ask you to approve in about 2 items. But I just wanted to make sure that nobody had any second thoughts or wants to have a discussion about that. We can certainly.
I was not here, but read and watched, and I think you folks did a good job thank you for the scriveners, and thank you for the people that contributed to it.
Okay. Under liaison appointments, again, we have a list in your package. We're running late again, but we really do need to have this discussion about liaisons at some point, if not tonight. The one that is obviously critical is not liaison as much as it is the representative to MPO. And I know, Phyllis, you filled in for us last week, is that correct?
Yes, I did. I went to the Doyle Center. What a beautiful facility that is. It's a lovely location. And it was a lot of the same people that I see at the MART meetings, actually, the mayors and different people. The meeting, it's the third Wednesday of the month at 1 p.m. This one lasted 40 minutes, and it was reported that the Summer Street project is moving along on schedule. I guess many of their that was typical of many of their meetings, but when they get into the transportation improvement plan, the TIP, sometimes they get more lengthy.
Now, Ms. Adams was thinking about it, and you attended last week. Either of you want that job?
I mean, I think that time of day is very hard for me to commit to with work and children. It's just a hard time.
If I weren't already the MART representative, I would do it. So if someone else did MART, it's 10 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I was willing to do one of them. If you're already MART, why switch?
Yeah, right. Well, I was just saying.
Yeah,
that,
unless you think there's a reason for it.
No, but I just, I don't want to do both of them. So
I understand. So why don't I do the MPO one?
You know, one thing that they said, Brad Harris said to me at that meeting is most communities have a designee.
Really?
That
How many times have we asked this question?
Right.
the town of Lancaster has the town planner. Other communities have the DPW director.
All right, let me do
Paula
this.
is the only BOS member who attended.
Let me do this. Let me agree to be our representative until such time as I can
find a
squeeze
designated.
So, I mean, you
Okay.
know, he's the one who brought it up even. You know,
Okay,
he
good.
said, listen, you know, most communities, Paula's the only
was the one
BOS
who was
member that
emailed,
actually
too.
came.
Okay.
So they
Most
moved
people-
from what the
town
official
planner,
is versus
DPW
how they
director.
operate.
So,
So I'm going to ask the town manager to help me identify a designee, but in the meantime, I'll be our representative. Now, I still think we have to have the discussion about liaisons in general, but I'm going to suggest we postpone it one more time and
Thank
make it a
you.
real agenda item next.
or earlier.
Right, yeah.
Earlier in the
Early
evening.
in the, okay. Okay, moving on to current business, we had, number 1 was the traffic rules and orders. Number 2, I believe we're just having a request to withdraw an application. So I don't know, do we need to vote on that?
I think we do.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we accept the request to withdraw an application for change of manager beneficial interest for B&H Corporation DBA Mickey Shea's license number 00039RS-0636.
Second.
Any further discussion?
My question was, the women that came aren't taking it over? Is that what's happening?
No, because he's selling it,
They're not changing the manager in the meantime.
Oh, okay, okay.
Right.
Thanks.
And we're also going around with ABCC in terms of what it really, when you change ownership, it's different than just changing licenses. So we're going to have a couple that we've seen before come back again, unfortunately. But this one was withdrawn and will come back when it's got the appropriate paperwork in hand.
Did we vote?
Oh, I'm sorry.
we vote?
That was the discussion, I take it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Keep me honest.
Well, it's going to show on the video if we don't do it.
Okay, we have regular minutes for the July 10th meeting. And then we have executive session minutes from April 4th, 2017, April 18th, 2017, May 23rd, 2017, September 5th, 2017, October 10th, 2017, November 7th, 2017, November 14th, 2017, November 21st, 2017. And just for the public, executive session minutes don't become public until the issues that we discussed are now public record, and that's why.
So we've approved them all prior, but this is just, they're being released as a public record.
No, we're approving the minutes to be released
To
at
be
this
released.
point, right?
Just the release action.
Right.
And I appreciate them all being sent in advance, so we don't have to do the work tonight
Right.
reviewing them.
Any committee reports?
Let's see, I did. The Stormwater Task Force is going to meet on August 2nd. Mart emailed late this afternoon the new Council on Aging contract. We got about 3 things late in this afternoon, so I didn't have a chance to go through this. It's the contract and supporting templates for compliance, so I'm assuming that'll, have you had a chance to look at it?
I have not,
Yeah, right.
but
It did come late in the day.
I will be sending it to town council for a final review too.
Oh, great. Thank you. And I attempted to attend the meeting set up by the mayor of Fitchburg on the proposed movement of medical services. And got there and found out it had been canceled 9:30 the night before.
Oh, my goodness.
Because of open meeting law violation. They were going to have all of the city council members from Fitchburg there, and they realized they couldn't without a posted meeting and everything. So I had a lovely tour of the new Fitchburg State Facility. Then I got to go home. So, but I think it's an important meeting, and hopefully they'll reschedule it.
Okay. Any other committee?
Sure. I had volunteered to be liaison to the planning board, and I don't know if we're liaisons or not, but I'll follow along anyways. Their meeting last night was canceled because they didn't have a quorum. But prior to that, one of the things with marijuana and the bifurcated approach, I'll just touch upon that since we mentioned it. They have to work on setting up bylaws, but one option for the town will be to vote in a prohibition. And if that was voted in, then that's what we would have. If that wasn't voted in, then there has to be bylaws created so that they exist and those could be adopted. So there sort of has to be a plan in place when you're offering two things so that if one fails, then there's another thing, there's another option. So that's sort of how they're going to be approaching the bylaws.
So they're going to propose a prohibition, and then if that doesn't fly, they're gonna say, well, if you don't prohibit it, here's what we'll do?
Well, it'll be offered, the options will be offered. It requires town meeting vote, also would be a ballot item. But if you go in offer prohibition and that's voted down, you're still required to have bylaws, or there's sort of standards that would just kick in on their own and you would not have your own bylaws created. So they'll be working on a couple different approaches to offer them.
But they haven't taken a position one versus the other yet,
I think the position is to have the bifurcated approach.
to have the two opportunities at town meeting. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So they haven't voted for one or the other yet, so.
Correct. So they will probably recommend one approach, you think, or you don't know?
From the meeting that I attended, which was their listening session, I feel like they really wanted community input and community direction, and that their work will provide the community the opportunity to ultimately make the choice as they would anyways, but they want to, I think, approach it that way.
Great.
Ultimately, any town zoning bylaw, the planning board has to take a position,
Oh, okay.
so.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other committee reports? Okay. Before we go to public comment, our upcoming meeting schedule, we will meet in August on the 7th, the 14th, and the 21st. Our workshop on August 14th, we had 3 items on our list of potential workshops. 2 of them had to do with facilities. 1 of them had to do with earth removal permit closure processes. And we already have some items on the August 7th to actually do some earth removal permits renewals. And so I'm going to suggest that we use the 14th to, as a result of that being fresh on our mind, deal with earth removal permit closure process in a workshop format, leading towards perhaps a bylaw in that regard. It's something that we've talked about for quite a while. Mm-hmm. And then at that same meeting, maybe we can clarify. We had 2, and I wasn't clear what the differences between the 2 relative to facilities were. So maybe we can set that up to be the September, at least one of them to be the September workshop.
Great.
If that's okay. Good.
Sounds good.
Okay, before I ask for motion to enter executive session, is there any public comment from the public? Please.
Good evening. I know you guys have a long night ahead of you. Dave Passios, 56 Whiting Street. I actually came out this evening hoping that there would be some discussion about the special permitting process, policies and procedures. And I understand that the Shady Point issue was a very important issue and many people came out for that, so it took up all of that time. I respectfully request that that item be put on an agenda for the future, because I think that really needs to be discussed. There've been a number of instances over the past year or 2 with inconsistencies in the way special entertainment licenses and permits have come about. We'll leave it at that for tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I just ask that that be a priority somewhere down the road. Secondly, in a previous town manager's report, there was mention of applying, I believe, for grant money to fund the assessment of the old primary building for its hazardous materials. Am I correct about that? Didn't you mention something?
No, there was the demolition of the building was a project that was submitted to the state.
That was actual
As far as an
demolition,
earmark?
which will include that, that study.
That assessment
Right.
part of it.
Okay. There had been some discussion about doing that assessment as soon as possible so that we really know what we were looking at with that building. I've made a couple of comments on Facebook, or actually started a thread posting something that was done up in New Hampshire, actually by a private business, but in partnership with the townspeople, that would fit perfectly on the property behind the building. And there were quite a few comments made that talking about incorporating that type of a park along with rehabbing that building. So there was quite a discussion there for a week or so about that. So it's still in everybody's minds as, we need to move forward with that. The other thing that came up in your discussions this evening was the moving forward of disposing of the land on at West Street. The other thing that I'm aware of, and I'm sure the town manager is aware of, is that there was capital money appropriated, and right at the moment, for some reason, the fiscal year escapes me, but I believe it was 14 or 15 for demolition of those buildings, and that money is still sitting unused. So in our deliberations as we go into the budget season for next year, I again press to find these monies that have been sitting for multiple fiscal years and not used, and plan to reappropriate those at special town meeting or town meeting to get that money working for us instead of sitting there. Thank you.
Thanks. It was brought to my attention that I overlooked the quarterly report of the animal control officer. It is in your package. Is there any questions or comments on that?
No, appreciate it being sent out in advance.
Okay. Is there any public comment from the board? Okay, I will entertain a motion to enter executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21, Reason Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the government's bargaining position and the chair so declares. And we're going to be talking about the DPW union collective bargaining, and we will return to open session.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Mrs. Adams?
Aye.
Mrs. Luck?
Aye.
Mr. McQuaid?
Aye.
Mr. Ebersol?
Aye.
And I for myself. Good night, everybody, but we will be back. Okay, we are now back in public session, and I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion, per our discussion in executive session, that we approve the memorandum of agreement between the town of Lunenburg and the Laborers International Union of North America Public Employees Local 39 DPW Unit, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2021, with the proposed changing to the existing contracts within the document.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Mrs. Adams?
Aye.
Mrs. Luck?
Aye.
Mr. McQuaid?
Aye.
Mr. Eversole?
Aye.
And I for myself. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.